Hello, I'm Scott Brady with Overland Journal and Expedition Portal, and today we're going to talk about Starlink services primarily, but there's some other things that I think are relevant as well. The most important news is that Starlink has released their new RV model, which you can see here on my left. What are the differences? So this is the RV antenna, and this is the residential antenna. And we've had the residential antenna for close to a year, and it has been a game changer. It allows for high-speed internet in remote areas. But when it was first launched, you couldn't move it from a location to location. We kept our address here at the office, so we could actually use it in the surrounding areas of Prescott, which was really nice. So I could go camping with a new trailer or a piece of equipment, and I could still work when I was remote, but still basically in the same zip code. Recently, within the last few months, Starlink has enabled a service called portability. So it allowed for me to take the residential antenna and move it from location to location. Now, what does portability do? First off, it allows you to move the antenna from its initial designated zip code. But the second thing that it does is it changes your priority from within the system. So if someone has residential antenna, residential service, and they're not moving it from the originating zip code, they get speed and accessibility priority over all of the other antennas in the area. So someone who has a home antenna, they're remote, and a bunch of RVs come into or overlanders come into the area, they're gonna get a lower priority than the residential unit that's being anchored to its original zip code. Now, what we found with this particular unit that made it complex was really the size and how to store it. So we really just used the original box, which is large, cumbersome. So when we saw the RV antenna come out, we jumped right on it and we got one of the first units that came out. And so now you can actually see the difference between these two units on size. So the antenna is about half of the overall size of the round unit here. It's square and it's much easier to store. You can store it in a Pelican case or in an alu box. I think Equipped actually has an alu box that they have set up for this. The base is also smaller. So this is a triangulated base in the residential unit, and then it has a 4-post base for the RV unit. They both have holes in them for running stakes or mounting hardware to keep them attached to a roof or to the vehicle or even to the ground. Now the differences after that are also significant as well. So the residential unit has a large power brick. Now the power brick and the router are both not weather protected. So the router is very small, as you can see, but it has no weather protection. So one of the big differences is this combined power brick and router is IP54 rated for the weather. And on the bottom of it, you can see two ports here. One of them is for the power cord, which has also dust and moisture proof seal. And the second inlet is for the antenna, which is also has a rubber seal. So the antenna plugs in there and the power cord plugs in there. So overall, a much more compact unit. They both have plenty of wire to get the antenna away from the vehicle, out from under tree cover, and to maximize the performance of the antenna. Now the question also is, what's the performance difference between the two antennas? What we have found is it is very small difference. As I understand it, there is a small difference in signal to noise ratio, SNR, between these two antennas, but it is essentially undetectable. A little bit difference in latency, a little bit difference in speed on upload that I've seen, but that varies so much from day to day. And the thing about Starlink is that they are constantly putting up new satellites. So the service from when I first got the residential unit to now, to today, it's an order of magnitude better. And it's available in more places, and more countries are coming online all the time, and more satellites are going up all the time. And they've also had a couple recent firmware updates as well. All of that stuff makes the antennas perform better each time and the service perform better each time. So you really don't want to try to compare the two. They both are amazingly quick, both in download and in upload, and very low latency because these are low orbit satellites. Now, as a comparison between these, this is the BGAN unit that I used for many years traveling around the world. Took it with me to all 7 continents. and it is much lower speed. It is a very small antenna, but these are high orbit satellites, so there's tons of latency. You can't even think about trying to do a video call unless you got a lot of money in the bank. So you're looking at $7 a megabyte for the BGAN units and a lot more latency. It was all we had at the time, so it would allow us to get emergency communications out or the occasional photo of a significant event, but that was about it. And then of course, there's the easiest form of satellite communication, which I recommend everybody consider first, which is just going to be an inReach like this small unit here. I always bring this along as well because you always want to have redundancy with satellite communications. It also uses a totally different satellite network. It uses the Iridium network. So you have the redundancy that you need to communicate when you're in the backcountry. So overall, no big difference in performance, huge difference in size. The RV antenna is also available, which is a huge benefit as well. That's our update on the Starlink for today.